Hi, Islamic Dad here. I'm going to do another video on dating in 2023. Before I get started, if you enjoy this channel or find it helpful, or hopefully both, please subscribe. It does help me out a lot. So, also just kind of, post narcissist relationship. I think this is good just because of how I've set my priorities and what I'm on the look for as far as red flags. And I think I did have mentioned that before, is that after coming out of a bad relationship with a narcissist, you're really in this heightened sense. You have your spidey sense always going, where you're just like, okay, that's a red flag, that's a red flag, that's a red flag. So, I'll touch on some of those too. So, 2023, I had the relationship with the covert narcissist of 4 years, and on New Year's. So, made it really easy to find that date on the calendar. Dating has been insane. I've spoken to other people and they've said the same thing. And just to be clear, and this part I find really interesting, I've talked with my female friends that are single or, off and on, and they say the same thing, that the dating pool now is so much worse than it was 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, it is just, really difficult for both men and women to find quality people to date, let alone have a second date, or even, I'm sure that someone out there got lucky and managed to actually start a relationship in 2023. I do not know exactly what's going on. Some of my friends have said, oh, well, COVID. After COVID, one, no one knows how to act with other people. And two, after COVID, everyone is incredibly selfish and self-centered. I agree with them with the symptoms. I don't necessarily think this is because of the quarantine and people being inside their house. I don't understand how being inside your house for a year suddenly makes you, a complete jerk and a self-centered a-hole. But that's just me. Just to clarify, this isn't, men against women or women against men. It sounds like just dating's just bad right now for everybody. So, my experiences. It may or may not surprise you if you've watched all my videos, but in spite of just having the looks that I have the confidence of James Bond, and that I will practically make a game up. And I did this with my friend a couple nights ago. I said, and it was actually a female friend. I said, who's the most beautiful woman in the entire club? And she pointed to this woman, really, really gorgeous, very much looking like a model. And my friend, she had to leave in a little bit to to go to something else. But I said, look, I'll get her phone number and her name and I'll text it to you tomorrow morning. And I went up to her, did worked my James Bond charm, and got her name, got her phone number, that type of thing, and texted my friend the next morning. And where I'm going with this is just that I do not have a problem meeting women initially and going that next step, getting their phone number, coordinating a date and stuff like that. So through 2023, as bad as it's been, I've had a dizzying amount of dates and interactions with women. So in addition to just basically my cold approach, at clubs, bars, whatever, I've also played the online dating apps and meeting people through mutual friends and stuff, and it's all just been that insane. I mean, regardless of where I've met these women, it's just been horrible. I mean, I know that there's this misconstrued idea that like the women that you meet through online dating are all the crazy ones. But if you meet a woman at a restaurant or, a coffee shop or something like that, she's going to be great. Maybe for you, that's great if that's the way it is for you. I have not found that to be true at all. And, I've had such horrible experiences on both ends. So, online dating, I have had some notable experiences. One was actually so crazy. Two women that just came out of the gate full sprint, which is great. I'm a guy. So they were very, talkative. They shared their life, but they also asked me questions about my life. We were connecting, everything's going great. And, after like a day or two, I say, hey, let's, we're really getting along well. Let's go, meet face to face and talk at a bar. And at that point, they would say, oh, I can't because I live in Oklahoma. That was one. And then the other one was a woman who's like, I can't do that. I actually live in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And I'm just stunned. I mean, at that point, I just said, bye. This is a waste of time. I wish you had told me this up front. So that was bizarre. I did not know that living in a separate state and then trying to meet someone to date was an option. Like, I don't even know how that would work. They told me, oh, well, I plan, meaning nothing's already like set in motion. I plan on moving to your state. When? Tomorrow? Next month? Next year? 2040? I mean, it's just meaningless. It's still just a complete waste of time, and honestly, just incredibly deceptive. So I had not one but two experiences where the woman actually lived in another state. I've had a couple of odd, dates, both, say online, but, face-to-face coffee shop type thing where, and maybe this is just me, maybe this is just me and like everyone else is just great with this. But when I'm dating and looking to date, I flirt and I'm expecting, the woman that I meet to flirt also. And so when I meet them and she's as interesting as an accountant and just talking about Excel spreadsheets for an hour or something like that, while I keep like throwing out, hooks, be like, here's an easy one, you can, spin that and come back with something flirty and just nothing. And, to the point where I'll just keep going, going in that direction, just trying to get some spark that they're freaking alive. I mean, as far as I could tell, they were like androids or something. I mean, it was just creepy, honestly, for me. And so at the end of the day, the end of the day, I would just say, thanks for meeting me. This has been nice, but I don't think that this is going to go anywhere, because I'm looking for someone with, that's into flirting, who's passionate, who's sensual, who has a zest for life, some enthusiasm, some joie de vivre, and I'm not seeing any of that. So I don't think we're a good match. And these women, instead of throwing their drink in my face or something like that, will just be like, okay, I am computing. I mean, it's just, even then, it like did not elicit any type of a response from them. So for all I know, maybe they were androids. I mean, just no emotion, just some stories about Excel spreadsheets and macros. So, I had one or two dates, like that. Mixed messages, those are always fun. So I've had a couple of dates where, again, like one that comes to mind, I go James Bond, charmer, name, phone number, I'll, text her tomorrow, set up the date. And, in the interim, she's, texting me and saying good morning and, really, sharing her day and stuff. Really green flags, super, super bright green flags saying, okay, this woman is interested in me. She's putting forth effort. There's nothing sexier than effort. And so she's, doing this, and I'm like, wow, this is wonderful. This is such, so refreshing from like androids, talking about Excel spreadsheets. And so we, have our date, and, everything's going okay on the surface, but I feel like there's some weird distance. And then after, like, we get our drinks and we have a chance to just kind of, talk, by ourselves and, have some privacy, talk one-on-one. I get what I call the I like to go slow speech. And again, everyone's different. Maybe some people like hearing that speech. I don't. To me, that is a Chinese Mayday communist parade of red flags. It shows me that they like to play games. They like to, barter and, throw out hoops to jump through. And I've learned the hard way through my life that, if a prospective or if a partner does that on the first date, they're going to do that a week in, a month in, a year in. And so the thing is, like, even if I overlook that and try to make things work, there, I've already learned the hard way that that's their mindset. And so they're going to be doing that 2 years into the relationship. And so again, coming out of my, relationship, I am very much on the lookout for red flags. And to me, I like to go slow speech is the biggest red flag of all time. And so I just, clenched my teeth, smiled, changed the topic, enjoyed the rest of the evening. It was nice. And just left with no intention of ever setting a second date. I didn't ghost her or do any of that weird Gen Z crap. I was, polite, but just, had no interest in even pretending to have a second date or whatever. And so, just to step back a couple minutes, this was so confusing to me because of the mixed messages. I mean, she had been putting in so much effort before the date, taking time out of her day to say, "Hey, what's up? What are you doing? I'm at work. It's so boring. I wish it was Friday. Ha ha." That type of stuff. And then to just be the opposite on the date is confusing for me. Like I don't do mixed messages anymore. It's 2023. Mixed messages are a turnoff. They're a red flag. I will go running in the opposite direction. You need to say what you mean what you say, and your words and actions better be aligned, or else I'm gone. So that was really odd. And, I don't know if I'll bore everyone with the details, but, I had 2 dates that were like that with the, I like to go slow speech. The one on the second date was even stranger because before I like to go slow speech, she spent 5 minutes describing in fairly good detail her kinks and what she enjoyed and what she'd like to try. And there was stuff that made my eyes pop. Yeah, I don't even know what to say following up on that. There was some stuff that was very jaw-dropping. And so I was just like, whoa. And so, to me, it wasn't like a turn on or a turn off. It was just signaling to me that, like, okay, this woman is in touch with her sexuality. She knows what she likes. She knows what she is curious about. It doesn't get much healthier than that, in my opinion. That's great. So it wasn't like I was, going to try to have, sex on the first date. It was a date. It wasn't a Tinder hookup or something weird like that. But again, like, so she went through doing that for 5 minutes, just making my jaw hit the ground, and then just instantly flipped it and went into the I like to take things slow speech. And like I just said, mixed messages make me go running to the hills. I know that is a bad sign. That is a huge red flag. And so when she went from, like, her 5-minute speech of kinks to I like to take it slow, the date was over. I was done. I was like, okay, it's getting late. I'm gonna take you back to your car. And with, again, no intention of talking to her again to make a second date or anything like that. Not ghosting, being polite. I'm not Gen Z. I don't do ghosting. I think it's rude and really immature. But just like, yeah, this isn't going to work out. And that one was kind of, I was kind of sad about that, because up until that point, we matched really well. And again, this is where, this kind of ties into the, coming out of the 4-year relationship with a narcissist, is that, and what's ironic is I actually said this on the date earlier in the night. I said, 1 strike, you're out. I don't do 3 strikes. This is 2023. I cannot waste my time like that. One strike, you're out. Again, your words match your behavior match your words. If they don't, that's manipulation. I'm gone. And yet, half an hour later, that's exactly what she did. She just, crossed her signals, and I was just like, okay, well, have a nice life. Bye. And so that was really bizarre. One, I can't remember if I had mentioned this on my earlier video. Too bad you get to hear it twice. I've been surprised in 2023 the number of women that make having a passport a requirement for dating. Now I know, especially, guys like to talk about like the 6'6" and, like, oh, you gotta be 6 feet tall with a six pack and make six figures. You can figure out the rest. But more, I've never encountered that myself, but I've encountered do you have a passport? Which to me is the strangest question to ask on the first date. And so I did have one date with, up until then, an attractive but obnoxious woman, which to me isn't a bad thing. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes it's nice to be around obnoxious people that speak their mind, regardless of if it offends others. So, the date was going well, and then like kind of just out of nowhere, and I think I had brought up the question about like, what are you looking for? Because she was like, recently became single too, and one of the things that she said was, the next guy I have a relationship has to have a passport. And again, like, she's not the first or only woman who I've encountered that has mentioned that. And so as soon as I said, okay, I don't have a passport, she like went into shock, and she's like, well, wait a minute. Do you mean you've never traveled outside the U.S. to Europe or to Japan or, to, South America? And I said, no, I haven't had a chance to. I don't have my passport. And it was like, it was almost like disgust was her emotion, her response to me. And I called her on it. I said, look, I think you're being incredibly classist. I grew up very poor. We called ourselves working class, which just means we're dirt poor, but, don't want to say it. And so we didn't have health insurance. I mean, we didn't have, some days or some months, we didn't have the mortgage paid. Lots of other stories. And that was just like how I grew up. So the idea, I mean, no one in my family traveled to Italy, Greece, or Iceland, let alone had a passport or anything. So it was never even in my world growing up. And so even now it's kind of a transition, because I'm in a place where I could do that if I wanted to. But I called her and I said, look, I grew up working class. That was just not something that, that we ever considered. And I think that that's true even now, that there's a lot of people out there that just grew up in an environment with families and just their, familial culture where having a passport and traveling the world was not a option financially. And she was like, yeah, you're right. But you could tell she didn't care. She's like, yeah, you're right. I don't care. I still want a guy who has his passport. And if you don't, I'm not even going to like have a second date with you. So again, the reason I bring that up to this degree was that, while she was the main, date that I had who said that face to face, even like online, I see that all the time. And, I don't see you need to be 6 feet tall. I don't see you need to have six figures or be, a self-made millionaire or, own your own business. But I see like, you must have a passport all the time. So again, 2023, such a weird time to be out there dating. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other appropriate dating stories to share. Um, yeah, lots of catfishers and scammers on the online dating sites where, they might, get you going. What amazes me is the amount of time and effort they'll put into such a small payoff. So a scam that you might see very often is they'll talk to you for like 2 or 3 days. And then when you say, hey, how about we meet at such and such a bar and meet face to face and have a drink? And they'll say, oh, that's great. I live here and you need to send me $35 via PayPal so I can take an Uber. It's like, what? Has that scam ever worked in the history of the world? I told them where they could, stick their PayPal request. But again, like what makes me scratch my head is what's going on with like someone who spends 2 or 3 days taking time out of the rest of their day to chat over $35 on PayPal. It's like, go get a job at Arby's. I mean, go, get a job bagging groceries or, doing whatever. And my point is, I'm not trying to deride those positions. I'm just saying, like, there are always open, available jobs if you need money quick. And if someone's trying to make money scamming people through online dating for $35, I think that that's the boat that they're in. So that was very, very odd. I've had, I'm trying to think of some other ones, or other ones that I can share. I did have a girlfriend of sorts. She and I lasted for about a month. And it was, and I'm going to mention this again because of the context of coming out of my previous relationship. So we both had really strong feelings for each other. This wasn't just about hopping into bed or something like that. We really cared deeply for each other, had a lot in common, but there were some things that, some of her behaviors, I'll call them, that I was not comfortable with. And I let her know that. And her response was basically, you can take your concerns and stick them where the sun don't shine. And I was like, okay, well, we're done then, because I'm not going to remain in a relationship where I'm not 100% comfortable. The end. And again, to me, I was like patting myself on the shoulders and, giving myself, medals and trophies, because it was such a drastic change in how I was approaching relationships, a couple of years ago, like when I was with the covert narcissist, where there was so much stuff that I was not comfortable with, and I just kept my mouth shut. I mean, the deception, kind of the stories that didn't make sense, the lack of consistency. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And I stayed. I just swallowed my pride and stayed through all that, and the relationship still crashed and burned. And so that lesson to me was, you can't, swallowing your pride, trying to white knuckle it and, make it through, thinking that your partner's going to snap out of it, or that your partner's going to like see the light or something like that. You can't do that. I mean, you have to reach a point where you just kind of like, set a boundary or an ultimatum if you prefer, and just say, look, this is something I am not comfortable with, and I'm not going to remain in a relationship where I'm not 100% comfortable. So I would like you to make a decision as to whether or not you continue this behavior, in which case I'm going to have to leave, or if you cease that behavior and we can continue this relationship, because, otherwise it's amazing. And again, in that situation, it was like, you can stick your, lack of comfort where the sun don't shine. So I just, called it off and ended it. And again, it was very confusing to me because she was heartbroken, which was confusing to me, because it's like, okay, well, you made the decision not to change this behavior. This is the consequence. And so, this might be a little bit of a tangent, but too bad. Something that I've noticed just in general with people in 2023, and I have talked about this on previous videos, is that a lot of this like self-help crap, the like self-care. I mean, it's this gross selfishness that's like shoveled down everyone's throat as being healthy and emotionally healthy. And it's like, no, since when has being inconsiderate been healthy, or not caring about others, even people you're in relationships with? When did that become healthy, to disregard other people's feelings? And but that's the message in 2023, and she was very much a victim of that messaging. And so in her mind, she was standing up for herself and saying, no, I'm not going to change my behavior, because I have to do, what's right for me, and thinking for me. And so, and I'm going to get to the important point here. The important point that is never mentioned by all these people shoveling this like self-help crap is that when you make those decisions for yourself, you need to take the consequences into consideration. And in my experience, those people never do. And so the fact that I left as a consequence of her not ceasing that behavior came as a shock to her. And she was like deeply hurt. And I mean, to me, I just have to scratch my head and just, what did you think was going to happen? And that's not the first time that I've been in situations like that, where people have made these decisions that they felt were the right ones, but were actually incredibly, myopic and, self-centered. And then when the consequences came about, which everyone else could see coming, when those consequences came, they were blindsided. They were just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And so, I mean, again, it's just 2023 is such a bizarre time to be alive. So, yeah, so that was a little bit of a fun story. So, yeah, I was in, a relationship for about a month before I had to leave. But again, I'm proud of myself for just saying, I'm not comfortable with this, and if it is gonna, remain that way, I'm not. So, I'm trying to think of what other appropriate dating stories, I might share. Yeah, there's been lots of back and forth on the online dating apps, but again, like I think I have mentioned about this before. Lots of women that are pen pals. I don't know if women have men that are pen pals. I don't know. I'm dating women, but the women that just want to chat every day, and when you try to set a date, they won't just say, they won't come out and say, no, I'm not looking to date. I just want to chat. They'll say, oh, I can't do this week. Oh, I've got this. So, oh my, I feel, I do feel embarrassed about this. I had one woman who ended up being a pen pal, and she led me on for almost 3 months. Yeah, talk about the doctor not taking his own medicine. Um, in my defense, she was an expert at this. She threw out enough crumbs to keep my attention and said the right things at the right time. Told me that her intention was to meet at the bar or, this, stuff like that. But, ultimately it was, oh, this week is rough because of work. And then the next week it was, I'm helping my mom move. And then the week after that would be, I have to take care of my friend's ferrets. And then after that, it might be, I'm traveling to Utah. And then, finally at the end, it was, she had COVID. And then she was sick for a long, long time, post COVID. And then after that, it was that she had gone to the doctor and got diagnosed with long COVID. And this went on, and, like I said, it went on for about 3 months. And finally, I was just like, this is really starting to smell fishy. I mean, after 3 months, I saw the light. So yeah, so things ended there. But it's funny to me because I've really tried to set a boundary for myself. Honestly, I think those are the best types of boundaries, are the boundaries we make for ourselves. And one of them was, okay, I will only chat for 3 days, and then it's time for scheduling a date. And for me, everyone's, entitled to do whatever they want. But for me, I found that 3 days is good because if, I'm chatting with someone and it goes past 3 days, at that point, the odds are that they're a pen pal, that they just like to chat, then they have no interest in meeting and, getting a drink or going to the coffee house. If I'm, chatting with a woman and we, set a date, say, after 2 days of chatting, or, on the third day, those are real. At that point, that's real. And like, the woman has shown interest, and she's, put her, money where her mouth is and said, yeah, let's meet at such and such. I'm free at this time. See you there. And so, again, this was very much a case of me not listening to my own advice, going past my 3-day boundary, and having it last for 3 months almost. Yeah. So, I'm honestly, I could probably go on more. I am you know, seeing, dating, talking with, like maybe a half dozen women. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that as I'm trying to be active. Honestly, that number really doesn't mean anything because it's 2023. And out of those, I might only be, actually ultimately only meeting for a drink or to get coffee, maybe two of them. And the other four are pen pals, live in Oklahoma, or asking me for, PayPal to buy an Uber. So hopefully this video has been entertaining. And I do hope this has been helpful in, just making sure that after you've been through a bad relationship with, whatever flavor of narcissist, that you do take care of yourself and trust yourself when your spidey sense is going off and you start sensing or seeing these red flags. Listen to them so you don't end up back in a bad relationship with another narcissist. So hopefully this has been helpful. Thanks.